So you're working with this buyer and you've asked them a lot of questions and you've determined they're ready, able, and willing to rock and roll and they want to see property. Here's the next steps. Before you put them in your car or before you give them a map and say, here's where we're going to go, I want you to take 10 or 15 minutes, 10 minutes maybe, and talk about your process and the paperwork. Your process and the paperwork. If you don't stay in charge of this process and if you don't outline the process at the beginning, you're going to lose control of what the heck is happening when you go and show property. In this case, you're just a chauffeur driving somebody around. So the process, maybe I presented something like this. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we are going to go and take a look at properties, but what I want to do is kind of let you know how that looks and set some expectations around it. We need to many times call and set an appointment ahead of times. And so I need to make sure that you're available at a variety of different times to go and possibly see a property. This is important because sometimes buyers will say, well, we can see homes, but only Saturday morning from 10 o'clock to 10:05 or something, highly, restrictive. As a showing agent or as a buyer's agent, this is a problem. You need to set some groundwork to say, gosh, you need to make yourself available from a variety of times and dates over the next couple of days so that we can identify the best property and take a look at that property. Now, also what you want to do is tell them, because I'm an expert with properties in this area, I have already previewed several of these properties. In fact, I typically take a look at them as soon as they come on the market, and I'm aware of what's going on. And I'm also aware of some properties that might not, be on the market just yet, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But here's the process. We've identified some properties. We're going to see no more than 3 or maybe 4 properties in one day. And after we go through that property, I'm going to ask you a question. And the question is, do you like this property enough to buy it or not? Like, you're looking for a commitment right on the spot. Do you like this property enough that you'd want to buy it? Or have I missed the target? Is this something you don't want to see or anything like it? Now, even though you've gone through and asked a bunch of qualifying questions before you get to this point, that stuff is all, nice and dandy. It does lay a groundwork, but once you're standing in a property, people have a tendency to give you much more direct and emotional responses. I hate it. I don't want to see it. Well, great. Here's the problem. The other 3 properties that are in their price range in that location look very similar to it. So you need to dial in on why is it that this one has been disqualified? Don't gloss over this and just go on to the next one. All right. So you're outlining your process. This is how we do it. So the next is paperwork. Before I show property to anybody, I've already sent them a sample copy of an offer. They need to understand that there's going to be paperwork involved, that how this paperwork gets filled out is just as much of an art as it is a science, depending on where you are in certain market conditions. Are you going to put a lot of contingencies in your offer? Is the market going to support that type of thing or not? And getting that paperwork in their hands early as a sample is something that I would absolutely recommend each and every one of you to do. If you're not doing that, at some point you might come up against an obstacle where someone looks at an offer that you're writing and they say, whoa, what's this? What's this liquidated damages thing? I don't understand it, right? Had you furnished them a copy of that in advance, you might be able to dispel and or explain some of these, maybe some of their more difficult questions earlier in the process. And so it's not compounded with the emotion once they fall in love with a property. You kind of get that administrative thing out of the way at the beginning. Also, it sets a precedent. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, there's going to be paperwork. It's going to have to be signed in a timely fashion. So in order for us to procure the very best property we can for you, given your time frame, given what's available in the market and what your budget looks like, right? You're putting a lot of qualifying statements into this whole adventure. You're showing properties fun and exciting, and they might really be into it, but you need to kind of set those ground rules, explain your process beforehand. Give them a copy of the paperwork beforehand. This is going to reduce the number of surprises you have to deal with going forward. Please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget, visit our website and schedule your free 30-minute evaluation.